They say success changes people, but no one ever talks about how it changes silence. Because the silence I grew up in wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. It was the kind that swallowed your name before you could even speak it. My name is Soria Gray, 31 years old, founder of Gray Media, one of the fastest-growing independent storytelling networks in the country. But before all this, I was just the forgotten child in a house that cheered for someone else's victories. Every award I earned was a whisper. Every dream I chased, an inconvenience. And every time I tried to speak, someone turned up the volume on my brother's game instead. Tonight, as cameras flash and reporters shout my name, there's still one sound missing. The sound of my family, finally calling me enough. They didn't come. Not for the launch. Not for the dream. Not even when the world finally started listening to my voice. But maybe that's what it took for me to realize. I was never supposed to prove them wrong. I was meant to prove myself right. Tonight, the lights burn brighter than ever. And for the first time, I'm not scared of the silence that follows. The stage lights burn into my skin as I stand alone at the podium. My smile, professional, practiced, perfect. Cameras click, reporters whisper, and I can feel the weight of 200 eyes waiting, watching. This is it. The Gray Media launch. The dream I've carried since I was 12 years old. But even as the applause settles, my gaze drifts to the front row. 5 empty chairs. 5 reserved name cards. Mom, Dad, Everest, Aunt Patty, Uncle Frank. All empty. I'd written their names myself. Like a fool hoping that this time it would be different. A reporter raises her hand from the front row. Miss Gray, who inspired you to start your company? The question hits harder than I expect. I lift the water glass, buying seconds to compose myself. The ballroom waits. Maybe, I say softly. It came from knowing what it feels like to be forgotten. Cameras flash. Pens scratch. Somewhere in the crowd, a few people nod. Because they know. 12 years old. Cross-legged on my bedroom floor. A plastic toy microphone in my hand, the kind that connects to nothing. But to me, it connected to everything. I used to whisper news to an audience of stuffed animals. And in breaking news, I'd say, dreams come true if you work hard enough. Then from the living room, Dad's voice booming through the walls. Did you see that catch? That's my boy. That's a gray man right there. The cheering drowned my little broadcast. Still, I raised my voice, determined to finish. The door opened. Mom peeked in. Honey, could you quiet down? Your brother's highlights are on. But I was just. I know, sweetie, she said. That gentle smile that always meant no. You know how important these game films are. The door closed. The house went back to celebrating Everest. And I went back to whispering. If I speak quietly enough, I told myself, maybe they'll finally listen. They never did. Your brother's got real pressure on him, Soria. Dad said when I was 14. You're the lucky one. Lucky. That word followed me for years. Like a curse wrapped in kindness. When I told them I wanted to study journalism, Dad didn't even look up from his coffee. That won't put food on the table. Try business. Mom added, your father's right, honey. Those communication degrees are hobbies. I applied anyway. Northwestern, partial scholarship. But when I showed them the tuition gap, $20,000, Dad frowned. That's a lot of money for a dream that might not lead anywhere. Everest got a full ride. A car. Boxes packed neatly by Mom. Your father and I will contribute what we can, she told him. They contributed everything. Just never to me. So I went to community college. Worked night shifts. Saved penny by penny to buy a used microphone from a pawn shop. That night, I whispered into it. If no one listens, I'll find the ones who will. 6 years later, 50 million people listened. The night before the launch, I stayed up recording an episode in my apartment. No fancy studio, just 4 walls, foam panels, and a heartbeat that wouldn't slow down. Marissa, the coffee shop owner, leaned over the counter once and asked, "500,000 listeners, huh? Your folks must be proud." I froze. "They don't really know," I said. "What do you mean, they don't know?" I shrugged. "They're busy. Busy with Everest's senior season. Busy being parents to the right child." When my show hit the charts, I texted Mom. 3 days later, she replied, "That's nice, honey." 3 words. No meaning. No pride. Thanksgiving came. And with it, the familiar ache of going home. The gray house looked the same. Only I didn't. Uncle Richard boomed from the living room. There she is, the career gal, still doing that little radio thing. "Podcast," I corrected. Dad clapped my shoulder. "She's got a few listeners now. Hobby's taking off, isn't it?" "A few listeners. 500,000. I asked where Mom was. "Upstairs," Dad said. When I opened my old bedroom door, I stopped breathing. The bed was gone. My walls covered in Everest's trophies. My spelling bee certificates, my journalism awards vanished. Mom turned, dustcloth in hand. "Oh, Soria, we've been meaning to tell you we needed somewhere to display Everest's accomplishments." "Where's my stuff?" I asked. "In the garage, boxed up nicely," she said. "You know, since you've got your own place now." My voice shook. "You could have asked." She smiled. "Well, you're never home, always working on those little stories." Little. That word burned worse than silence. Dinner was a blur of laughter and football talk. Dad raised his glass. To Everest, the future of the gray legacy. Glasses clinked. My water stayed still. Later, I sat in the garage, digging through dusty boxes labeled Soria. My awards. Bent. My journals. Smelling of paint and neglect. Then my phone buzzed. An email from Western Media Group. The biggest opportunity of my life. They wanted to sign Gray Media for distribution, but they needed a co-signer for the lease. I walked into the kitchen. "Dad, I need to talk to you." He didn't even pause the TV. "Make it quick." I explained everything, the deal, the chance, the need for a signature. He frowned. "You want me to risk my credit on some internet hobby? What happens when it fails?" "It won't fail." I said it with conviction. "I have 500,000 listeners." "Your brother's got NFL scouts," he said. "That's real success." He turned away. Conversation over. That night, I sat on the floor of my old room, now Everest Trophy Shrine, and recorded a message I never planned to publish. "This is what invisibility sounds like," I whispered. "When the people who should see you the clearest don't see you at all." I wiped my tears, then signed the contract alone. My name, and only my name, on the line. 6 months later, my phone buzzed nonstop. "Congratulations, Miss Gray. You're Forbes 30 under 30. I laughed. A hollow, disbelieving sound. Then an email. From Dad. Subject, "Proud of you." I froze. He wrote, "We heard your interview. You spoke well. We're proud to see a Gray making such an impression." Finally. But then, the next paragraph. "Everest is going through a tough time since training camp. His son's school fees are due. We were hoping you could help, maybe $3,000 monthly until he's back on his feet." And just like that, the warmth drained out. They didn't reach out when I was building something. Only when they wanted a piece of it. I typed back, "I'm building something that matters. Not love. Not yours. Just truth. The calls came. Then the messages. Then the visits. Everest showed up at my office one morning, still carrying that athlete's swagger. Dad said you've been ignoring him. I replied to his first email, I said. Not about what matters, he paced. I lost my job, Soria, my kid's struggling, you could help. I stayed quiet. You've got millions of listeners while my son eats noodles, he shouted. What kind of aunt does that make you? The kind who learned what abandonment feels like. His jaw tightened. You've always been jealous. No, I said. I've always been invisible. He slammed my desk. This is about family. When it was my turn, I said softly. Where was that family? The silence that followed was louder than his anger. I opened the door. We're done here. By nightfall, his post hit social media. Something about ungrateful sisters. Dad called 7 times. Mom left a voicemail. Family takes care of family, Soria. I pressed delete. The next morning, my PR manager slid a paper across my desk. They're contacting advertisers, trying to damage your brand. I stared at the list, then said, tell them Gray Media speaks for itself. And it did. Within weeks, sponsors doubled. Listeners tripled. And for the first time, the silence that haunted me felt like peace. Because sometimes, the only way to be heard is to stop explaining yourself to those who never cared to listen.